All right, so today we're going to do the last step in the process of collecting data for our human impacts essay. And so everyone should be on page 12 of your science spiral. It looks like this, only yours is filled in a little bit more. And today we're going to start looking at two more pieces of information. We're going to collect that information. Then we're going to evaluate the paraphrase box for whether or not this information that's pre-typed in for you is paraphrased, plagiarized, or quoted information. And it just helps give us some conversational moments that will help point us in the right direction as we're beginning to collect data for our human impacts essay. All right, so just to review, what are we doing? We are writing an expository essay. It is about a region of the world, and we're looking at 3 threats or human impacts or problems that humans have caused in that area as it relates to their ecosystems. Okay, nature. So how did humans screw up nature in different regions of the world? That is what we are covering in class. And you are learning how to collect data in this data chart so that that information can be used with your language arts teacher to write a well-written essay. And how many paragraphs is this essay going to be? Kara? 5 paragraphs. And yesterday we talked about having 5 buckets or 5 pages of data charts. So 5 different pages there'll be a title at the top of each page. That title is like naming the bucket. So the first paragraph was your overview bucket. The last paragraph is your solutions bucket, or your paragraph 5. And then your 3 middle ones are your human impacts. 1 paragraph for each different human impact or threat. All right, so those titles, those names of those buckets are what we will eventually put up here in this yellow box at the top of each page. But for now, we're working on the oceans by way of an example, and we're looking in the bucket called plastic in the oceans, which is 1 human impact. So we've already looked at a source called Science World Magazine, and we have found this really great graphic that had to do with gyres. And the gyres were circles where there was garbage floating in the ocean. And we were able to notice that, yes, we can pull visual information like charts, tables, graphs, pictures, maps, diagrams, and we're able to put that in our copied information box, and then we're able to paraphrase what we see going on there. And we said that this first one was plagiarized, so everyone should have written plagiarized on the line. And then we said the second one, it was the paraphrased one. And the thing that made them different from each other was that the second one changed the order of the sentence, but still maintained the key ideas. Whereas the first one kept the order. We had, in a sense, stolen the author's order of the sentence, and we had sucked out words, and then we had put in different words just to that same order. So that means it's still plagiarized. I have to incidentally tell you that last night around the dinner table, I was telling my husband about this, and he was like, what? He's like, this is probably the first time these kids have ever heard that you can't just suck out a word, put a new word in there, and have it be your own paraphrase. Because he said his kids in his classes struggle with this a lot. This idea of having to rewrite a sentence with the parts of the sentences in different places so that you're not plagiarizing. All right, well, we're in process, so we're going to keep working on it. By the time you get to him, you'll be perfect stars. You'll have to tell him, I learned everything I know from Mrs. Dearson. Okay? Promise? Okay. Good.
I promise.
Okay, so then we're going to move to our next piece of information. We're going to go to the Science World magazine again, and we're going to begin reading there And incidentally, this first paragraph is a very general paragraph of information. It doesn't go into a lot of detail, and so I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at that paragraph. But I would like to look at the second paragraph right here where it says, in recent years. Who will read that aloud for me nice and loud? You have to have a good, loud, strong voice. Angela.
In recent years, oceanographers have searched in vain for a pristine marine environment. They've found plastic everywhere they've looked. It's a global problem, says Chelsea Watchman, a marine ecologist at the University of Toronto in Canada. We can't point to a single habitat or location with no plastic.
Excellent. So, as I'm reading, I come across this and I think to myself, oh, this is good. You know what? That says that there's garbage everywhere in the ocean. And somebody important said that. So, I definitely want to include this in my essay. So, I start by copying that information. I go back to my chart. I go under the plastic page because this information was about plastics. So I'm going to paste it right here in the next copied information box because it's a new idea. So I hit paste. There it is. Now the next thing, I work backwards. So I go back, fill in this box, go back, fill in this box, and then leap forward to the paraphrase. Back, back, leap. Back, back, leap. That's the order that we're going to do this. So then I go back to the source right away before I forget. I copy and paste the URL at the very top. And I put that in this box. And then I go to the topic box. And again, we're looking for keywords that will help us as we're writing our paraphrase to get the idea of what was in that writing. But we don't want whole sentences here. We just want snippets, just little snapshots, 1 or 2 words. All right, so what are some suggestions of words or phrases that we could use that describe what's happening in this writing right here? Izzy.
That explains that there's plastic in the ocean and in most habitats.
Yes, so there's plastic in the oceans and in most habitats. So what can we say about, like, if we were to shrink down the words for me.
There's plastic in all habitats.
Okay, so it's in all habitats. Good. So I'm going to put over here, I don't need to say plastic in all habitats because the whole page is about plastic. So I would just put all habitats. Okay, what else could I say?
Plastic everywhere.
Everywhere. It's everywhere. Good. So we've said it's in all habitats and it's everywhere. That really sums it up. I don't think we really have much more to say. That's pretty much what is said. Good. So now we've gone back, we filled it in, we've gone back, we filled it in. Now we're going to leap forward to the paraphrase. Now this is where you take this information and you go through my 4 steps, right? You ask yourself, do I understand it? Do I get it? Then if I get it, like, do I understand that it's in all habitats and it's everywhere? If I do, I can move to the next step, which is jot it down, note it. Here's where I put my notes, right here under these key words. That's your notes. Then I ask myself, how could I rephrase it? How could I change the order of the sentence? And I try to speak it out loud. You've got to hear yourself say it. And you can say this to a friend, a parent, a teacher, or just to yourself. But say it out loud, whisper it to yourself. You actually can hear, like, does that really make sense or really not? And then finally, you're going to write it in your own voice in the paraphrase box. Now, for today, for our teaching purposes, I've already written some paraphrase versions here just to speed things up. So let's see what each paraphrase looks like and whether we really think it's a paraphrase or not. So the first one says, who will read it for me, nice and loud? Ginger.
Plastics are everywhere in the ocean. Animals, homes, slash habitats are also affected.
Excellent. Then can you read B for me, the second one? Go ahead.
Oceanographers have looked a lot for a perfect marine environment. Chelsea Roachman believes it is everywhere.
Okay, good. So now let's look at these two. This is A and this is B. All right, you're all voting for one of these. Which one do you think is the better paraphrase? Do you think it's A or do you think it's B? All right, raise your hand if you think it's A. Raise your hand if you think it's B. All right, put your hands down. All right, tell me about A. Tell me about A, Chase.
It's basically re-saying what you put in topics.
Good, so I went back to my topic box and these words helped to form this statement. Let's check to see, does any of this, is it a copy of anything in here? Do you see any phrases that are specifically copied or structures? Raise your hand if you say yes, you see copied structures. Raise your hand if you say no, it looks pretty good. Go ahead, raise your hand. It's no. Try it. Everybody ready? Up. That's good. All right, put your hands down. All right, so we look and we see, does it say plastics are everywhere in the ocean? And I read over it. Let's see. They've found plastic everywhere they've looked, but that doesn't sound exactly the same. Mine starts with plastics, says it's everywhere, and then says it's in the ocean. So no, that's not the same. Okay, no. Animals' homes are affected. Okay, it says a quote from her, but that doesn't sound like her quote, so we're good. By the way, this is the better paraphrase, right in the blank, right here. Everybody right? Paraphrase. Here's where it is at the top. Make sure you spell it correctly. Paraphrased. All right, let's look at the second example. Do we see any imitating words from this paraphrase that I'm trying to write off as a paraphrase to this paragraph that I just directly copied? Seth?
There's a lot of it, like oceanographers have looked a lot for a perfect marine environment. And then that first sentence is basically just a few words dropped out.
All right, so the first sentence, oceanographers have searched. Look what I did. I said have looked. Then they say in vain. I said a lot. They said for a pristine. I said for a perfect. They said marine environment. I kept marine environment. This is considered plagiarism, but I would call it tiny bit plagiarism. Tiny bit plagiarism.
That, not quoted.
Okay, did I just take one word out? No, I took out like 3 phrases, right? At some point, if you take out enough phrases, it does change it to something different. Now, I still kept the same sentence structure, but there's an awful lot that's different about this sentence. So, in my opinion, this paraphrase is a tiny bit plagiarized. It's not your best option. So everybody write down on this line, tiny bit plagiarized. Right up there is the word plagiarized. Tiny bit plagiarized. So what I want you to understand is that plagiarism can be black and white. It can be very obviously like, yes, you copied that and you just sucked out the word looked and you or searched. You might have just taken out that one word. Well, then that's obviously black and white plagiarism. Very obviously you did it or you didn't. But sometimes we can take out enough words to change the sentence enough that it's not entirely the same. So I would still say this paraphrase is a better option.